Hey everybody, I am Amy Silverman and I'm really glad to be with all of you here at Catharsis on the Mall 2020, the theme of Haven. I am the founder of the Connection Movement and Connection Camp, where we dive into the ways that we can revive our sense of shared humanity and our ways of being with each other that deepen relating and really dive into the experience of, I'm making up a word right now, but co-humaning. Never said it that way before, and I guess that's part of what happens when we get into a live recording. So I'm happy to show up with all of you today with whatever comes. And that's part of our theme of what we're going to talk about. But before I say more, you're probably thinking, who is this gorgeous sidekick? This is my friend Cindy Lebeau. Do you say Lebo or Lebeau?
LeBeau.
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 And she's here as basically here as the stand-in participant for this workshop that you get to take at home, where I don't get to hear your answers or coach you directly. So I'm going to be in a few minutes after I address all of you now, I'm going to sort of switch my attention over and just really connect with Cindy and let you join us and take what enlivens you and toss out what you don't like and reach out to me if you want to learn more. So this theme of haven is, I think of it as home. I think of it as that comfort and familiarity. And I believe we as humans are very driven towards comfort and familiarity in general, which has us often not sharing whole truth, even with ourselves, not looking at the whole thing, not asking questions that might challenge, and not considering that just because we think we know, we might not know, because it feels better to think we know. So curiosity is this amazing key that can kind of open, I can't say every, but so many, a huge broad range of dynamics, of relational dynamics. And there are, in my creation, there are of how curiosity works, there are three forms of curiosity. And that's what we're going to look at today, is how we can step into and embrace our unknown and even assume that we don't know when we think we do, and then explore, and how does that impact the person that we're with in terms of how heard they feel, how seen they feel, how rich of an exchange it feels to them and to me. Are we both interested in the conversation? And do we leave having actually connected versus just exchanging information, or meeting only this close because we left our ideas, assumptions, projections, and so on in the middle, buffered between us. Mm-hmm. So this is gonna move quickly, and this is something I'd love to spend more time on. And if enough of you send me an email or a DM on Facebook, and I'm not really on Instagram, but I'm working on it, then we can even create a fuller dive into this topic of curiosity. So I'm gonna give a quick talk, let's say, or just a quick explanation of these three types of curiosity that I've distinguished in my listening and in my experience of other people being curious with me and how I feel. And we'll test some of them out with Cindy and ask how she feels when I ask these kinds of questions. So, all right, Cindy,
Yes, I am here and present.
I like that. So for me, the kind of curiosity that I feel like I receive the most is this data gathering, information collecting, and informational logistical exchange kind of curiosity. And it's the kind of stuff that we need to, well, how many blocks is it? And I just want to know how much time I need to set aside for this. And, like, what do I need to bring? Right? That's one part of it. But then there's also that when we're trying to relate and connect with another person, this can serve in terms of making dots on a page. So if it's art, it's like a connect the dots. So I always love to give a call out to my mom because she is the absolute queen of data gathering information, data gathering curiosity. In fact, she'll know someone's entire life story and all the details sitting, before the plane is even taken off when she's seated next to them. And she'll do this with me too, that I'll share, maybe I won't even do the example. I will do it with Cindy. Instead of me telling you how my mom is, I'll play the role of the data gathering curious companion. So maybe we can come up with a topic that you would enjoy sharing about, Cindy. Is there one that jumps to mind right away?
Yes, after many years of running a business and writing, I've let my son manage the business, and I've published my novel after waiting a very long time. So I've published The Secret Tales of Mrs. Chubley, and I'm excited and nervous about it.
Wow. Okay, so I'm going to stay in data gathering curiosity. Did you self-publish or did it get picked up by a publisher?
I self-published, and I started a tiny little publishing company. So I published it under the name of my publishing company, Mother Tree.
Mother Tree. Cool. And how long is the book?
Well, it's not illustrated yet. So without the illustrations, it's about 400 pages.
400 pages, and it's going to be illustrated.
The next
Wow. How many illustrations do you imagine going in there? Like, how long do you think the book's going to become?
Well, it's probably going to have about 30 illustrations, and about half of those will be full page illustrations, and half will be small little icons at the top of the chapters.
Is it a lot more expensive to print a book that has illustrations if they're not color?
No, if they're black and white, it costs about the same. It's when you go into color printing that then it becomes a whole different ballgame.
Wow. Were you always wanting to go into publishing, or is that just part of writing a book?
I was learning, I'm a writer. I don't even want to edit it. I'm just a writer, but I had to learn so much to be able to publish it that I thought I would just start a small publishing company to publish my other books and to help all of my friends that are really creative that want to publish great books, to have a little publishing company to help them do it would be great.
Cool. Okay, so we're going to pause there, and I want to ask you, what's that face?
That felt like, just didn't feel like our friendship. It didn't feel like our connection.
No. Now, what if I were a stranger, for example,
felt like I was being interviewed for a very dull article.
Okay, yeah. So we're gathering information. So it wasn't necessarily juicy for you to get to answer those questions.
No.
So I have to actually tell you something.
What?
I had a lot of fun asking you those questions. It was interesting for me. Like, oh, I get to hear about publishing. Now I could ask this thing I've wondered. But it was for me
Yeah.
rather than for you. It wasn't building a real relationship. I was gathering data, which again, I could now plot out the information that you just shared, and I could connect the dots, and I have a nice line drawing, which isn't more expensive to publish, to print, um, uh, of Cindy and her experience writing a book or publishing a book and why she started this company, right? And I described this kind of connection, this kind of communication, when it's not just for functional purposes of needing information, when it's for relating purposes, to be kind of like snacking, like popcorn and that this I keep wanting more and more, but I'm not necessarily getting nourished. And then on your side, there's this kind of like your Google, and I'm inputting my questions and you're giving me the answers. Is that a
Yeah,
sort of
that's what it is. Like, sure, I could just give you a one sheet on this and we wouldn't have to talk about it. Give you the facts.
sure, right? So it's not necessarily always fun for someone. Now, that's not to say that we as human beings don't love to talk about ourselves, tell our story, answer these kinds of questions, or it could really have lit you up to talk about any of those things. We're not saying that this is like a sub, um, what's the word I'm looking for, Cindy?
It's there's nothing bad or pejorative about it. It's
Right.
just one type of experience. If you're not going to judge it, it's a good useful thing.
It serves, right.
Serves a purpose.
So then this next type of curiosity is this analytical curiosity. It's the one where that we experience a lot in maybe a therapist's office. We also experience it probably a lot when we have 3-year-olds around us, 4-year-olds around us. And it's the why, why, why was it 400 pages? Why, whatever. So but it's also the why where we go into the, um, this an analytical place
Right.
where people often, number one, when we ask these why questions, I found there are a few different ways that we respond. One is, whoa, I never considered that. Let me think about it. And there's an excitement that you got into a why. And the person actually enjoys self-exploration. And it feels like a gift that you've asked why. When they go to check the answer, I've observed that we often, our eyes go, this way. Why do I do that? Or down, or even closed. My mom closes her eyes when she's looking for her whys. And we leave the relationship
Right.
to go like all the way over here. It doesn't mean that we're completely abandoning it or that we're not re-entering it when we respond. But that's one thing that I've observed. Another response is often, even if we earnestly are curious why, there's the don't challenge me. Don't, why are you asking why? Do you think, are you critical? Is it like, why would you have done that? Even though you may have said, why did you do it that way? I'm interested, and so it can feed a a a a sense of power dynamic.
defensiveness, maybe.
Yes, it can also feed a power dynamic the other way of like, why, oh wise one, which can be really delicious too. So I'm not even saying all these things as, okay, it's bad if there's power dynamic, or it's bad if someone's challenged. These are just qualities of the why. And we go into a figuring outness, even a figuring out of our emotions. Why do you think you're jealous? Why do you think you asked that twice? Why, right? So we're not going to do a bunch of why now with Cindy, because I want to put our time into what I think is the juiciest form of curiosity that gets us the most mileage if our intention is contact, connection, a sense of being with each other and really knowing, versus connecting dots and thinking we know. Because, well, if those dots connect, it must be like this for her.
Right.
So this form of curiosity, rather than the dots, to me is more like a rich abstract painting, or almost abstract, like an impressionist kind of thing, where you're over here and you think you see what it is. It's haystacks, it's this, it's that. But then the closer you get, it's like, actually, I can't be as sure now. I want to get closer. I want to feel it. No, I have to move back because it has to impact me. There's like all of this nuance, and seeing lines isn't what's going to help you get it. It just transmits the color, the light, and so
like it has a lot more subtlety. That kind of curiosity has just a lot more subtlety and a lot of different kinds of layers.
yes, yeah, nuance and less linear or less defined, and just more room for possibility in many directions. And so what it takes is a lot of humility. It takes the humility to step into, I actually do not know what it's like to be Cindy. I see things, I hear things, I've read her Facebook posts, I see what she's wearing, I see where she's sitting, I see her scratching her head, I see her smirking and smiling. But I even just said smirking, yeah, that's pretty kind of a descriptive word. But do I even know why she's laughing right now? It could be I could assume that it's because I'm reminding her of herself. It could be that, who knows what? There could be a million things. But if I think that I know why she's laughing, then I am going to continue to perpetuate. If I think I know why she's laughing and I trust it as true without the humility that I might not actually know, then I'm going to be keeping something in the space between us that keeps us from being in full contact, because I'm going to be relating to my idea of how it is to be you, and you're going to be relating to the idea of how it is to be me. And we can only get this close. And we feel, if you put your hands like this, I do at least, feel tension and energy between them. There's a sort of contact that's already happening right now, but it's still not this or this or this. And yet it's still two separate hands. We can't go all the way in there. So let's get as much surface area of the nuanced stuff that kind of can coat us in each other. So that what that sounds like is this question: what's that like? Or some form of it. So maybe to even go back to your book, what's it like to have finished a 400-page book?
Takes my breath away a little when you say that. It feels big. So when I think about it, when you say, what's that like? I think about giving birth to I have 6 children. And I think about my book like a baby. Here's my book. It's like a baby, an infant. It was like giving birth. And then as soon as I finished and it was born, at that moment, I was so scared.
What's that scared feeling like?
Well, it was just such terror. It was big. It didn't make sense to me. It was just this big terror. I had given birth to this book and put it out in the world. Oh, I'm going to cry.
Mm.
It felt like having this baby, and now it was like out there in the world. It became a teenager instantly, doing who God only knows what, running around, being judged, not wearing the right clothes, getting into trouble.
What's it like to, and this is like about the book and for real, having teenagers and adults as a parent, what's it like to have no control over that?
Well, when I realized that I had no control, I was able to breathe into that and be with it better. When I realized that they just were going to either do what I taught them or do crazy stuff, and I was going to have to just deal with it, I realized that I had to find a way to be with them in a different way because I couldn't control them. It was terrifying.
What's that version of terror like? Is it the like I can't sleep terror, or the gnawing in my stomach all the time, or just the occasionally shakes me because I remember it, or some other thing? I mean, I just gave you choices, but I'm curious.
I think it's more like the terror when you're going to jump off a cliff into a river to swim and you're really high up and you just have to do it. So it's kind of like surrender. It's like the terror just before surrender, when you get that you have to trust these human beings and you have to trust this book that's going out into the world to have their life. That's it.
Hmm. What's it like to be sharing this with me and also knowing that this, and I hope you relate to it as wisdom because I'm hearing it as wisdom. Like, what's it like to be sharing this with me and know that others will get to hear this lesson about surrender?
It's who I am as a writer and as a mother and a teacher. It's who I am in my life. It's vulnerable and exposing and also beautiful because this is who I am, and I'm getting to be myself in front of, what I say, God and everyone. Here I am being me.
What's that feel like? You just this gesture. I'm curious in that moment what that feels like in your body. You go,
It just always feels like it's like my whole life is just jumping off of one cliff after another. It's terror and surrender and joy, terror and surrender and joy. And that's the way I roll. And it's like just like that all the time.
hmm. I'm reflecting on what you just said and realizing that just in these last few moments, I actually witnessed terror, surrender, and joy. Like just now, you were like this with your body, and moments before there was the I'm gonna cry. I think I'm gonna cry. And then, but moments before that, you were like, it's taking my breath. I mean, I just watched Cindy-ness,
Yeah.
is how it occurs to me. And it sounds like I'm picking up what I'm saying. It feels true for you.
I love that. That's what I call it for myself. And when I talk about other people, it's like, that's it. We go through life with our Cindiness and our Aminess,
Mm.
and that's what we bring to this soup of life. And for me, it's terror, surrender, joy. That's my. It's funny.
I
I just
feel so grateful that we, in these just few minutes, really, it feels like we kind of like, we're, we just hit into a rich place. And I feel grateful, especially because we're recording and sharing it, that others can see that um, one person's curiosity is a gift.
Oh, not only is it a gift in so many ways, but it has given me, I came here because you asked me to, and this is exactly what I needed to do tonight, to reawaken me to something that I wasn't paying attention to about who I am.
Mm.
Terror, surrender, and joy is just fine. It's okay to live from that space. That's my Cindiness.
Mm-hmm.
But you revealed it to me through your curiosity by asking me. So I shared it with you, and I shared it with me when I shared it with you.
Exactly. And I love that you just said that, because to me, curiosity, when given to another person for the sake or with the interest of, in service of connection, rather than my own entertainment, satisfaction, like, but I'm curious about publishing, right? But which is good. It's great to have those kinds of conversations. But when we're directly desiring a nourishing fullness of connection and being, the Cindiness experience, this third form, this essence form of curiosity, is like a superhighway to
Absolutely.
dive in there. And it serves as a tour guide, but
Hmm.
it's an emergent tour guide. It's like the tour guide doesn't already have the route. I didn't have a route to say, I'm going to get to the essence of Cindiness. And I think I need to stop in the foyer and then go here and there. And I thought to myself, that the way that we discover things is that, and I used to live, and it's funny, I actually have someone sitting nearby me right now. Her name is Dina, who used to live with me at one point, a short time, but spent time with me. And I lived in this apartment for almost 9 years, and it was a 3-bedroom, which meant I always was renting to someone. I could probably be asleep and give the tour of that apartment. If Dina gave a tour of that apartment, it would be a different apartment. It's like, let me show you the this, which is right next to something that I would have pointed out. And so it's like this um, opportunity to surrender to someone else's curiosity, helping you realize that you always open this one cabinet, but not the other, or to take you one step further in the what's that like. If I sit with my journal and I'm asking myself, why is this happening again? I'm feeling this way again. Why are these people doing this? I come to my answer, often a similar answer about the world or about myself or about from psychology or whatever, and then I stop. But someone else's curiosity, or even my own, which I've now learned to do with myself, to say, but what's that like? And that, and ooh, you just did this, but said you feel that. What's it like to say you're happy and be crying
Right.
and shaking your hand like this at the same time? What is that like? It's like, oh my God, I'm doing that with my hand. So that we become these beautiful guides into each other.
Beautiful.
And that is, I think, like the lesson that we'll be sharing today about how curiosity can be a emotional, spiritual, relational connection practice, and that just focusing on these three and even these three forms of curiosity and then becoming a maestro of when to use the different tools and to know why we're asking what we're asking and what effect it is likely, of course, there are no absolute rules, but likely to cause or evoke in another. We can become really, really proficient in choosing how we connect and to what depth with the person checking us out at the grocery store. Imagine day in and day out and someone saying, what's it like to see 8 more people behind me right now? Just that. Like, what is it like? I'm curious, really. I might think I know. And it could be like, oh my God, she sees 8 people behind me right now. She must be blah, blah, blah. And she might be like, oh, it's so cool because da, 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 da. What is it like? We don't know really.
I love that.
Hmm.
That's
I feel so grateful that you joined me tonight and that we got to explore this topic and I got to feel you and go on the Cindy ride with you of the terror, surrender, joy.
I want to thank you for something.
Yeah, I'd love to hear.
I want to just tell you that, because now you know that the Cindiness is terror, surrender, joy. That's kind of the way I live my life. That you particularly inviting me to do this. I'm going through the terror, surrender, joy, but in order for me to allow the curiosity process, I need to feel safe. And I feel particularly safe with you from our experiences together in connection.
Mm.
You have a way of opening up the space and putting up some safe boundaries for me and making a space where I can open up. And I appreciate that about you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Or as our teacher, Mama Gina, would say, thank you. It's true.
Yes, you're fabulous.
There's a call out to one of our mutual teachers who we love. And let's plug your book.
Oh, okay. Here it is, my baby, The Secret Tales of Mrs. Chubley. How One Small Mouse Saved the World.
I love that.
Wonderful. It's the first in a 4-book series. And one of the main characters in the story is a midwife and a nanny and a healer. And I don't want to tell you too much about it.
No, don't tell us. Let us be
want you
curious.
to just read it and have all the surprises and the excitement.
Yeah.
It's available on Kindle for $2.99 and it's
Great.
available on Amazon in paperback.
Thank you.
So
And then in
check it out.
terms of, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to speak over you.
That's okay. Just I'm pitching.
I was just going to say, and then theconnectionmovement.com, you will see my needing update website, and Connection Camp, which all of our live events are, of course, on pause in this important time in our world, finding new ways to be together until we can step into in-person events again. And it's my hope and dream, this time with COVID has been hard for so many of us, but I celebrate that many who didn't realize how disconnected they were from themselves and others have come to really be seeking. And I hope that for many who've come to this catharsis event, that maybe this gave you a little nugget. And we do meet every Monday night online, the Connection Movement, and are cooking up other juicy ways to serve you, to serve businesses, churches, schools, you name it. we get in there and connect. So thank you. And I guess we'll just say, see you next year on the mall. And I'm glad to see you online this year. Bye, y'all.